official podcast of the Jacksonville Public Library.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Hurley.
Welcome back, everyone. We have another fabulous episode for you.
Of course we do. Why wouldn't we?
Who are we interviewing today, Hurley?
Robert Reid.
Aww.
He's such a good guy. I'm lucky to call him a pal. He is an improviser here in Jacksonville and arguably one of the funniest people in the city.
I didn't even know we had like this whole improv scene
right?
here.
Yeah, I know. It's really blossoming.
I'm like really excited to go to one of his shows now too.
I know.
He says that he plays with his group called the Spotlight Giant every Tuesday at 7:30 at Grape and Grain in San Marco.
Yep, he sure does.
I know, and now that I've been reading all these like comedian books and stuff, yeah, I really got to get into this.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I could ever do it myself, but I bet it would be really fun to watch.
I think you'd be great. I think you should do it.
I bet it would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's scary, but a lot of fun. And we talk about this in our interview, too. I took a class with Robert over the summer in a beginner's level improv class, and it was super scary. And it's not even like I did theater all throughout high school.
Right.
You know? It's not my first time, you know, in the spotlight, but this space was made for spotlight,
Obviously.
you guys. Obs. But it was still super scary because, like, you're just in the room with a lot of really funny people. And
yeah, you don't know if what you say is going to land, if people are going to like, no, that wasn't the right thing to do or the right thing to say.
Exactly. And a big thing that Robert talks about is, like, it's not about being funny. It's about finding that jumping off point to get to the next point in the scene and using yes and to build each other up. But we'll talk all about that in our conversation. Here he is. Robert Reid in the house. I'm so glad you're here today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
I'm really excited to be here. This is awesome.
Thanks. Yeah. You and I have known each other for a couple years now, and my favorite memory of you to date is one time when you called me on the phone, and when I answered, you said, "Whirly Hinkler." And then I wanted to respond by spoonerizing your name as well, you know, switching those letters, but realized I couldn't because your name is Robert Reid.
Can't do it.
Your spoonerized name is Robert Reid.
It's the power I get to wield over others.
Is that what you
who don't
call it
have-
when you switch the first and...
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Like Hannah Jassel.
Yes.
Or Tryon Bomis, which is the best
That's
one.
really good.
That's a really good
God,
one.
we did that all the time in
Yeah.
high school, but I didn't know there was an actual name
It
for
is
it.
called a spoonerism. You're welcome.
Learn something new every day.
The more you know.
And Whirly Hinkler is like a really good one.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
love
Yeah.
that one.
My mom actually told me when she named me, that's why she named me my name, because she was torn between Hurley Winkler or Whirly Hinkler. So
Best of both worlds.
Best
if you
of both worlds,
spoonerize
yeah,
it. Wadey
exactly.
Keeks. I have a friend named Katie Weeks, and Wadey Keeks is my favorite.
that's really good.
I know.
Yeah.
I still call her that. That's the only thing I call her is Wadey Keeks.
I love it.
My aunt is Carol Beeson, which comes out to Beryl Keeson, which is
That's really good.
So
enjoyed
good.
that. Really
I
enjoyed
love
that.
it. I love it.
What a great story.
So Robert Reid, spoonerized Robert Reid, you have been doing improv since 1998, right?
Yeah.
That's a long time.
I know.
How did you get your start?
So I was a swimmer in high school, and I knew I wasn't going to swim in college because I wasn't fast enough. And so I decided to take a theater class. So I quit swimming and I took a theater class, and they introduced improv, and I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, I like that a whole bunch. And then I went to the University of Florida and joined Theater Strike Force there and promptly did it for 6 weeks and was like, cool, that's all I need. See you later, improv.
Wow.
And then I think it was 8 years later, I moved back to Jacksonville and got involved with Mad Cowford here and was like, that's awesome. And then I was living in Chicago 6 months later. So it was a
Holy
very,
cow.
I kind of like ran away from it. And then when I finally decided to commit to it, I moved to Chicago.
What kept you from committing to it originally?
I think in college, I just wanted to party and not be tied down to anything. I was just like, no, I want to play Ultimate Frisbee and hang out with friends and go to parties and stuff like that. So,
Right. But in high school, you said that it sparked an interest way back then. What first kind of struck you about improv?
I don't know. I think in improv, you have to have a little bit of a messed up brain in terms of there's just like this stream of consciousness that's always going on in my brain and stuff like that. And so really being able to run with an idea and do whatever I want with it is really, really liberating for me. You know, you'll talk to actors who find a lot of comfort in a script and knowing exactly what they're supposed to say, what their
Right.
blocking is, stuff like that. I'm the complete opposite.
Huh.
If you get me on stage with someone, especially someone who's never improvised before, that to me is an absolute joy because I know that they're really going to throw me some wild cards because, seasoned improvisers will come to the stage with a very clearly defined agenda and stuff like that. People who've never improvised really don't know what they're doing, which is what's so great about improv is when it's truly spontaneous, it's not planned at all. That's when the magic happens.
Right,
So.
and they're scared and vulnerable, and that's
Right?
when good things can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when creativity happens. So you mentioned that you ended up in Chicago. What was your path from there?
So yeah, my goal with Chicago was to go up there and train for like a year, maybe 2 years, and then come back down here and open up my own theater. I was like, that's my plan. That's how it's going down. So world, just deal with that. And of course, that is not how it went down. I was really fortunate. I made some connections, some strong connections, networking wise, and was hired at some really cool opportunities because people were like, this guy's from Florida and he is funny. So it was really cool. Some doors opened up pretty quickly for me, which got me really excited about performing. And the first time I auditioned with Second City, I got a call back, and people were like, that never happens.
Wow.
So there were just some really encouraging things that happened from the get-go. And so I just really immersed myself in training. I took classes with the Second City, Improv Olympic, the Annoyance Theater, and yeah, really just had a lot of fun learning and getting to perform. I think there was one January, my first January that I was up there, I spent New Year's Eve alone on my couch watching the World Poker Tour. I love playing poker. And that was like a really kind of depressing start to my Chicago experience. But a year later, I was doing 26 shows in the month of January. So it
Wow.
was really, really cool how quickly things happened. And I just immersed myself and found a bunch of friends and got to perform a whole bunch. So it was awesome.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us a little bit about your time with the Second City.
Yeah. Second City was really cool. I started in their beginner program and then took a break from that and jumped into IO, which is more long form, which is, kind of a more artistic representation of improv. But as I was working with IO and another theater, I auditioned for Second City, and I got called back for their general auditions, and then I got brought in for their cruise line auditions, which I didn't get, but I got another opportunity, which was called BizCo. It's their corporate communications division. And that was super cool because, the producers would call me up and say, can you go to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico and do a show for the top salespeople with Applebee's? And I wouldn't even look at my calendar, be like, yes, I can.
Yes.
Wow.
Which was really cool because I worked for, a large staffing company, and they were super flexible with me. They're like, oh, yeah, you get to get paid to go to Mexico? Yes, you may take that time off. With Second City, I traveled all over the country, and I worked with companies to provide entertainment. So we would do like custom songs and custom scenes. We would do archive sketches that Stephen Colbert and Steve Carell and Tina Fey wrote. So it was really cool getting to perform their material. And then the other big piece we did was corporate facilitation. So we would go to like Deloitte and Touche, and we would do a workshop for all of their incoming interns. And it was all about in improv, you have to really focus on communication and listening and team building and collaboration and really building on each other's ideas. And here's how it applies to the business world, which at first I was like, that sounds like a bunch of baloney and people pay money for that. That's silly. And then I started to see the transformations in the participants, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is really powerful
Wow.
stuff.
Yeah.
I never
Yeah.
thought about it like that that would be relevant in that business sense. But I guess,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
And it's I had a 13-year career in the staffing industry, and that's all about interviewing people, interacting with clients, and I pulled on those skills all the time. Just Robert, stop talking so that the person interviewing can give you the information they need. And that's a big part of improv is you can't just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. You have to let your partner talk because that's how you build on each other's ideas.
Right,
So.
right. So what are some of your favorite funny moments that happened during your time with the Second City?
Yeah. So yeah, there were a couple. I worked with a theater in Chicago called Laugh Out Loud, and we did short form. So I mentioned long form, which is more artistic. Short form is very much like what you would see on Whose Line Is It Anyway? It's game based. There are premises that and formulas that you execute, and as long as you execute it effectively, you're going to get laughs. So it's a little formulaic in nature, but I love it. It's fast paced and just a ton of fun. And so we were doing a game at this theater, Laugh Out Loud, and it's called Day in a Life, where we interview a couple of audience volunteers, and then we do scenes about them, and they get to audit those scenes by either honking a horn or dinging a bell. And so if we're right, we get the bell. If we're wrong, they honk the horn. So I was interviewing these grandparents, and we started the scene, and I just made a bold statement. I was like, oh, I can't wait to see our grandson, Trevor. Just threw out a random name and hit it on the nail on the head. They're like, ding, 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 ding. We were like, the whole show stopped because I was like, I'm sorry, I guessed your grandchild's name? They're like, yes.
That's nuts.
So that was a wild experience. And then we did another one where we had to a cast member would leave the theater and come back in and have to guess certain things. And I was playing. I was going to give them Elmo. So Elmo was what they had to guess that my character was. And so the second they came back in the room, my first line of dialogue was, "Me, Elmo."
Oh my God.
Which is like when I'm doing that accent, that's my go-to. That's how I've just always done the Elmo voice. But I just clearly told them exactly what they had to guess in the very first line. And I remember the rest of the cast members looked at me and they're like,
really?
wow, buddy, that was insane. Like, you've totally just ruined this. But we pulled it off. And, that's a great thing about improv is your audiences are super forgiving because they understand you're doing everything on the spot. So they're just super in awe of the choices that we make on stage, and so they're pretty forgiving. But yeah, those were some pretty interesting moments.
Hilarious. So in improv, we often hear about the concept of yes and.
Yeah.
It's a big one. What is it, and why is it important?
Yeah, so I've mentioned things like collaboration and building on each other's ideas, and that is really this concept of yes and. And so improvised scene work is just that. It's improvised. We don't have a script that we can just go to and follow the map or the guidelines for whatever that scene is. We have to just build on each other's ideas. And so, when someone presents an idea in a scene, it's very important to say yes to that idea. Because if you say no, then we're just in a negotiation on how to proceed, and it gets messy and bogged down. And so the first word you say is yes. So you're accepting of this idea. So if your scene partner comes out and says, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're trapped inside of a watermelon. As absurd of an idea as that sounds, like, you as your scene partner must say, yes, we are in a watermelon. But the and is so important, because without the and, you've just got a scene partner that goes, great. Yes. Awesome. Which is not really contributing anything other than just agreement. And so this and is so important, because you say, yes, and if we eat all the seeds, then we'll be able to spit them out and have ammunition to break through the rind of the watermelon. Like, I don't know. That's what's so great about improv, is it can go anywhere. It can be anywhere. You can do a scene inside of a watermelon and have a ton of fun. But if my scene partner said, hey, we're in a watermelon and we're trapped, and I said, what are you talking about? We're in a sandbox in a playground.
Right.
It's like, the scene just comes to a screeching halt, and now we've got this really awkward moment on stage. And so, it is the first thing that any student learns is say yes to an idea, but you've got to use that and to really build on that idea. And so that's where it really comes into in corporate America. If you think about brainstorming sessions, how often do we hear the word no? So often. People are like, oh yeah, that's not going to work because of budget restraints. And that's not going to work because we've always done it this way. Or that, if people would just open their mouths and say the words yes and then see what happens after. Our brain processes yes, which means agreement, and which means to build onto. Really cool things happen.
Yeah, because you're kind of like building something up and seeing if it just naturally topples over.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Interesting.
Absolutely.
So do you have to be funny to be an improviser?
I don't think so. No. I think you just have to have a strong willingness to accept ideas and build on them. Like I mentioned, I really enjoy doing scene work with people who've never improvised, because they really bring a spontaneous nature to the stage, and as long as they're willing to say yes and go with whatever's happening on stage, really cool things can happen. So yeah, no, I don't think you need to be funny. In fact, oftentimes when people force the funny, it doesn't work. So you'll see people and they'll come out and they'll do their best Trump impersonation. Those scenes never go well. It's really interesting in an improvised scene, like well-crafted impersonations and pre-planned thought ideas always fall flat. That was a lesson that really took me a long time to learn, because I'd be on the sidelines and I'd be like, great, I'm going to come out and I'm going to be a knight in shining armor, but I've got to go to the bathroom and I got to tear off all this armor. It wouldn't work because I pre-planned so much of it. Whereas if I just came out with an idea of I'm a knight and that's it, and let my partner then build on that idea.
We're trapped in a watermelon. Yeah.
Exactly.
So just that one tiny spark to kind of take it from there.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of balance.
It's imagination too. Like you saying that, like I'm trapped in a watermelon, like that's an imaginative thing to come up with.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you have to be like an out of the box thinker too, because then it would be really boring.
Yeah.
I don't know,
But, well, it's funny. So I've got a troupe that performs, and one thing I tell them is if you feel that the scene is becoming stagnant and it's not going anywhere, say something absurd. And oftentimes that it jars the scene loose and allows it to become a little bit more free-flowing because it's interesting. A scene inside of a watermelon is going to be interesting instead of a customer and a clerk negotiating over a bag of Cheetos. I mean, that's sure, it could be a great scene, but probably not as interesting as inside of a watermelon.
Right.
True, yeah. So you mentioned your troupe, Spotlight Giant. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I am really excited about this group. I've been back to Jacksonville since December of 2013, and I really took some time before I stepped back into the improv community. And one thing that I started to do is I started coaching a local team called Beastwood. They asked me to be their coach, which was a really nice way for me to kind of just emerge myself back into the improv world. And they did a weekly show at Rain Dogs and 5 Points called the Bold City Improv Jam. And I really just got to watch people because they always had an opening act, and I got to watch these different improvisers in the city. And I really, when I was ready to form my own group, I just did invite only. I didn't host auditions. I said, I really like your playing style. I think you and I would work together really well. I think one of my main concerns when I moved from Chicago, which is the hub of improv, is that there would be a step down in terms of quality of improv in Jacksonville, and I'm finding that is not the case at all. The people in my group, Spotlight Giant, are just such good improvisers and such gracious people to be on stage with, and so it's really been cool. We the jam has now moved to Tuesday nights. It's at Grape and Grain in San Marco. Starts at 7:30 every Tuesday night, so come on out. And it's really cool because we get an opportunity to perform, and then anybody in the audience can get up and jump up on stage. So what's great about having a really supportive, warm, and inviting cast is that it really makes it very comfortable for people who want to dip their toes in the improv waters. They get to play with this great cast that's going to be super supportive. So yeah, it's been great. We just did a show at the 5 and Dime Theater this last weekend. 11 of our cast members did a competitive type show, and it was so much fun.
What was the competition?
We literally played 12 different improv games, and each one had a winner. So some of them are naturally competitive and naturally come to a conclusion where there is a winner. Some are scenic in nature, and so we would have, like, the green team did the scenic game. The blue team did their scenic game. Which one was better?
Oh, okay.
And so
It
was fun.
So fun.
Wow. So there's like a big improv scene in Jacksonville.
Or
decent.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Mad Calford obviously has been, I started with Mad Calford, and that was, back in 2006. So they've been going strong, obviously Spotlight Giant. And then, there's a lot of little independent teams that are kind of branching off of Mad Calford. It's cool.
That's awesome. So you also own your own business, Mirth Creative Co. Tell us about Mirth.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I started doing improv and then I kind of ran away from it. And the same thing happened. Like after Chicago, I said, okay, let me take a break, and then I just slowly was drawn back to doing improv. I actually went to. About 2 years ago, I went to Croatia and Bosnia, and I taught improv with some friends from Chicago. And I think that was a very powerful trip for me. It was 2 weeks of just teaching improv to these kids that really don't get to, they don't get to do improv. They're just not familiar with it. And it was really, really special, especially in Sarajevo, where, it's this war-torn country that is emerging from the ashes and really starting to grow. But getting to work with those kids and they're like, oh, wow, this is such a neat art form. I came back from that trip and put in my notice a week later for my job.
Wow,
a career I'd been in for 13 years.
That
I was like,
powerful.
I gotta go. Yeah.
Okay, wow.
So I think my passion for teaching improv and doing the corporate work and teaching how improv can really improve people's lives through communication and collaboration and all those buzzwords was really a catalyst for me. And so that's how Mirth Creative Co. came to be. And so Spotlight Giant falls underneath Mirth Creative Co. It's our entertainment division. So, we'll do private parties and events of that nature. The corporate side of it, which is working with corporations and helping them develop a strategy around teaching their employees to be better communicators, collaborators, innovators, and then really just improv instruction. So there are people that, we'll take a corporate workshop and they're like, I want to be a performer. It's like, great, take a class. And so I've got a beginning, intermediate, and advanced level curriculum design for that. And I work a lot with kids. I work with kids out in Padavadra with Apex Theater. I teach there as well. And then Douglas Anderson School of the Arts, I've had the opportunity to come in and guest teach with them, and which has been so great because theater kids just eat it up.
Oh, I bet they love it,
so,
yeah.
Been really rewarding.
I had the chance to take your beginner level class
You sure
over
did.
the summer, and it was so much fun, but also super scary.
Yeah.
Because when you're put on the spot constantly, I don't know. Like I said, it's vulnerability at its finest, but it really helped me a lot with public speaking, with podcasting even.
Yeah.
And even just like one-on-one conversations. So thank you so much for making me more confident. It's great.
You are welcome.
What do novice improvisers like myself find the most daunting?
Right. I think when people hear the word improv, they immediately become nervous or scared because of this feeling of lack of control. They don't know what's coming next. And so I think that's the biggest hurdle for beginning improvisers to get over, is just that fear of, what do I say? And oftentimes, when we're in classes together, we say, you don't have to say anything. Just act like you're digging. Just get out a shovel and act like you're digging. And eventually something will bubble to the surface of your mind like, but can't wait to catch a worm. Not the most brilliant line of dialogue in the world, but it is a spark of an idea that we can build off of. And if your scene partner comes out and says, yes, and this worm cake we're going to make for your mother's birthday is going to be delicious. Super weird scene, but that's where my brain oftentimes goes. So it's just make a decision. Just do something, and then know that through that power of that yes and, your scene partner is going to support what you do. But yeah, I'd say that's the biggest fear for a lot of beginning improvisers, is that lack of knowledge of what's going to happen next.
Right, because you're standing in front of people, they're staring at you, you're like, oh my God, what do I do?
Right, you have nothing prepared too, which I can see, but like you were saying, both sides of it, like professional, like actors who have scripts, I could see that being scary, like having to memorize it and do exactly what they tell you to, but also being up there with no idea of what you're going to do is like a whole different type of scare. Like, what if I blank? What if I didn't do anything?
For sure, and there's this pressure to be funny. But you don't have to be.
And that's the thing. You don't have to be funny. Mm-hmm. You can do a very neutral, kind of boring scene, and as long as you're executing it, that's all we're asking for. Doesn't have to be brilliant. The funny just kind of comes when you just support each other and say yes to things that I think audiences typically laugh when they see improv, because the actors are so quick to agree to what happens on stage. Oftentimes that is what gets a laugh, is when I say we're in the middle of a watermelon and someone says, yeah, we sure are, golly, we got to eat our way out. Like, the audience is going to giggle at that because we're agreeing to such a crazy scenario that we've created.
Yeah, the randomness of it would get me.
Yeah.
Like, just like whatever you come up with, I would laugh just because it's like out of the blue.
Yeah, for sure. So what are some of your favorite books on improv?
So, I will be honest, I haven't read a lot of books. There were a couple that Sharna Halpern put out when I was taking classes at Improv Olympic. Truth in Comedy is one of them. I can't remember the name of the other one. But, I've always been one to really just believe strongly that you got to do it.
Right.
There, you can read all day long. It's like carpentry. I mean, you can read all day long about how to do trim carpentry, but unless you do it, you're not gonna be able to do it. So, or learn effectively how to do it.
Sure.
So, I have about 5 books. I've read 2 of them.
Okay.
So I find that really taking workshops and learning from people. You know, I've been improvising since 1998, and anytime there's an opportunity to learn from someone else, I'm like a sponge, because my road for improv is very different from someone else's road. And they're going to understand that concept of yes and differently than I will. So it's the most basic concept, but to hear someone else's definition of it just helps me understand that concept at a deeper and richer level. So yeah,
Definitely.
Experience has been my thing, I think.
Cool. Love it. So we're going to play a round of our favorite game with you. It's called Renew or Return. So producer Brian is going to give us a few subjects, and we're going to say whether we'd renew it, give it a thumbs up, or return it, give it a thumbs down.
Okay.
So take it away, producer Brian.
Okay, so obviously we're a library. These are kind of like book-themed, library-themed topics we go with for Renew or Return. So first up is true crime novels, Renew or Return.
Oh, we know Hurley's answer.
Oh, I'm going to renew.
You got
I'm gonna
my
renew
favorite
all
murder's
day.
favorite.
Yes, I am.
Number 1 fan over here.
Big true crime fan. I'm excited to watch the Bundy tapes this weekend, you know? Yeah.
I'm gonna return.
Yeah. Jenna, you scare easy.
I am a scaredy cat. Big scaredy cat. Can't do it.
Yeah. What about you, Robert?
I'm going to renew. I find
Nice.
that stuff very intriguing. People's decisions on why they choose to break the law is just really interesting for me. So
Very cool.
Renew.
Next up is some people's favorite drink while reading books, Earl Grey tea, Renew or Return.
Earl Grey.
What does Earl Grey even taste like?
I don't know.
It's like a black tea,
Is it a black
I
tea
think, right? Or it's gray.
it's a black tea for
It's
sure.
black?
Okay.
But when you put milk in it, it's gray? Maybe.
though? I don't know. If that's
White
how-
and black is gray.
Maybe.
I'm gonna return that one.
I'm gonna renew.
Really?
I recently discovered that if you put enough honey in
Ah,
some hot tea, it's pretty good.
that's true. But I want to be drinking coffee when I read.
Yeah,
That's true.
I'm gonna return only because I love tea, but I've started to really get into loose leaf tea, like crazy green teas with berry flavors and stuff like
Ooh.
that. So Earl Grey is a little too pedestrian for
Gotcha.
me.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Man.
Up
Big
your
time.
tea game.
Yeah,
Right?
That is some Philistine tea right there. Fancy.
Next up is Dr. Seuss.
Oh,
Renew.
renew.
Of course.
For sure.
Yeah, you gotta renew. I mean, that's
yeah.
Right.
it's how you get started in
yeah.
life. I feel like.
Right. You have to be a monster to return Dr. Seuss.
That's true.
Yeah. We don't even have any on our shelves because everybody's just keeping them because they don't want to be monsters.
That's right.
Yeah.
No one's returning that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Good luck finding Dr. Seuss.
All right, how about coffee table books? What do you guys think about coffee table books,
Oh.
Renew or Return?
I'm renewing. I like a good
yeah.
coffee table book. I don't know if you're at somebody's house, you don't feel like talking, you just pick up the book on.
Yeah, and it weighs like 27 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have any coffee table books?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
I don't have a coffee table that's large enough for my coffee
Same.
table books.
I agree.
Yeah. What about you, Robert?
I'm gonna say return. The only coffee
Okay.
book I have is like the top 100 movies of all time, and it's got it's a gigantic book, and the front cover is just a gigantic picture of Gandalf. So I don't feel comfortable just leaving that on my table. It's like, hi, welcome to my home. Read about Gandalf.
It's a little aggressive.
Yeah, feel a little too nerdy. I'm definitely.
I was gonna
a nerd.
say, yeah.
Gotcha.
I feel like people put them out sometimes just so people know, like, oh, I like these wonderful, famous artists, or look
Right.
at all the portraits I know.
Yeah. I have a
Yeah.
really cool Lisa Frank coffee table book that I love. I feel
yeah.
like that like sets the tone when you enter my home and see
That's
that
a
on the
good
table.
one.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do one more, Southern Living Magazine. This is for Jenna, specifically.
Okay, this is my coffee table book. Is Southern Living Magazine. If I had things on, it would be the Southern Living Magazine. I mean, great recs.
Yeah.
Like I said,
And your mom's a big fan.
mom's a big fan. This is the only reason I really know Southern Living is mom's a lifetime subscriber.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm gonna renew for sure.
I don't think I've ever read Southern Living, but I would renew based on what you
Great
told
recipes.
me. Yeah.
They do like reviews of different areas where you should eat, places you should visit.
It's probably a good road trip magazine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Have you ever cracked a Southern Living, Robert?
I haven't, but I'm taking the same stance as you. Like, I feel like I would get a lot out of that. Like, some really good Southern recipes, or
Yeah.
how to make your Southern bed, stuff like that. So, yeah, I would renew.
I agree.
Yeah.
There was one time there was a really good tip on how to remove a stain. I was like, huh? I never knew that.
There you go.
Wow. What was the tip?
I don't remember.
Oh, wasn't that good?
It wasn't that good. And it might have been in Good Housekeeping, because that's another one that I like.
Okay, true.
So I get my...
No, I return that. I return Good Housekeeping.
That's fair.
Good to know. So, Robert, we have one more question for you, and we ask this at the end of all of our interviews. We
Yeah.
want to know, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah. Probably a garbage man. I think if you asked little 6-year-old Robert, he'd be like, I want to be a garbage man. But I think, I think it's interesting. I think subconsciously underneath my dream of being a garbage man, I've always wanted to be on stage. As far back as I can remember, there was always that need to perform and be on stage. There's something about having those really, really bright spotlights hit me. There's a switch that gets flipped as soon as I'm on stage. When those lights hit me, it's like, boom, it's showtime. Like, I get really, really energized. And so I think, I never knew it, but as a kid, I was always dancing for the family. I was always performing for the family. I mean, I was just bouncing off the walls with energy of like, here I am, everybody look at me. So yeah, deep down, that's what I wanted to be, was a performer. So I guess I'm on the right path for that.
Yeah,
There you go.
and your family is not surprised. I take it.
No, they're not. And they're
Awesome.
huge supporters, which is great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, actually, your mom was in the improv class
Yes.
I took, and she was
Aw.
the coolest lady ever.
She's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's
super
awesome.
cool. Well, Robert, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a blast.
Thanks for having me.
Robert was great. I'm really glad that he came. And we're just going to go ahead and tell you guys that Hurley and I tried to do an improvising scene 2 different times, and neither of them were good.
Yeah, it's not our strong suit.
It's not easy.
Yeah, you guys don't realize how much planning goes into Completely Booked.
That's true.
Until Jenna and I try to improvise, and it goes
Sometimes
really
it
poorly.
works though when we're just talking, but when it has to be like a made up scene
Right.
that you add stuff to and like build this whole world, it's just too hard.
No, it's really tough.
Yeah,
it's really
so
tough.
Maybe we'll
It's-
add that in the, I don't know. Maybe it'll be a unreleased episode one time.
Maybe.
Yeah, lost files from Completely Booked. Keep that, producer Brian. Come back up. Yeah, that was pretty cool. So if you want to follow Robert Reid at Spotlight Giant, is his troupe, his business at Mirth, Mirth Creative Co.
Yes, indeed. You can also catch them at the Grape and Grain
7:30 Tuesday nights.
every Tuesday.
Yeah.
Every Tuesday.
Yeah, that's what I said. He said it was free too.
It's free?
Right.
Are we going to go?
Yeah, we're going.
Okay, great. I can't wait.
See you guys there. So everyone come and you'll see Hurley and I.
Yeah, celeb spotting.
Woohoo.
We're in the public eye. Make sure you subscribe to our show. And while you're at it, we'd love it if you rated us and left us a review.
You can follow us at Jack's Library from some pics from the show, or go to our podcast page, jackspubliclibrary.org/podcast.
Do it. You won't.
But
won't.
you should.
You should.
But you won't.
I think you will.
Maybe.
This podcast was produced by Brian Thomas, aka BT, aka
Producer Brian.
Goodbye.
So much fun. Hurley, let's do a little scene, shall we?
Okay. All right. This,
You gotta get in your
I gotta get-
frame of mind.
I gotta get in there.
Do some
Hang
of
on.
your red leather, yellow leather.
Yeah, red leather, yellow leather. My mama, your mama lives across the street. 1819 Alligator Street. That's it. Okay.
With the tongue,
All right.
teeth of the lip.
I'm ready.
All right. Am I starting this or are you starting this?
You're starting. It was your idea.
Hurley, what are you doing right now?
Well, Jenna, it's terrible that you should ask that because I'm very busy drying my feet off.
Why are you drying your feet off?
Well, what does it look like I'm doing? They're all wet.
It looks like they're a little bit green too.
Yeah, that tends to happen when you're like walking through a field with no shoes on.
Oh, geez. Were you heading to Netherland?
No. Yes, I was. I was just kidding. I'm really bad at
You
improv.
broke the rules of yes and.
I know, I heard it. We're not using that. That was terrible. And it was all my fault. Jenna was doing great. No. I'm not good at this. It's too silly.
It's too hard.
It's really hard.
It's scary. It is so scary.
I'm scared right now. I don't feel safe.
This is no longer a safe spot.
Jenna, let's do a scene.
Are we doing a scene? All right.
Yes.
All right.
All right. The setting is 1945, wherever you want it to be. Where are we?
1945. We're at a speakeasy.
Uh-huh.
And
alcohol was legal in the 40s.
What?
Alcohol is legal again.
Alcohol is legal, but it's one of those like it's like the Volstead or
yeah,
the
it's
Grape
just like
and Grain.
It's just like a really cool bar.
Yeah, they're like, oh, remember the days of speakeasies? That was funny. Let's do it again.
Hilarious. Just a really cool bar.
Yeah.
Robert De Niro just walks in.
Oh,
He's
hey,
wearing
Robert.
an awesome top hat.
I love your top hat.
And he just walked up to you and asked to buy you a drink.
Obviously, Shirley Temple, 3 cherries. Thank you, Robert. What a guy. He brings me my drink. There are 4 cherries, and I kiss him.
And you're outraged that he gave you 4 and not 3.
No. Well, outraged with joy. Is that a thing? Can you be outraged with joy?
No.
Because I was being modest when I said 3.
And you knew. He just knew, like, 3? That's not enough.
He's like, I gotta treat this lady the way she deserves to be treated.
Obviously.
I'm giving her 4. All right, yeah, we can't use that either.
Robert De Niro was 2 years old in 1945. How old do you think
This is improv, Brian. Don't interrupt my improvising.
Don't interrupt us.
We're at a speakeasy in 1945 with Robert.
2-year-old Robert De Niro.